Yo, what's up? Good morning, good morning. So we're gonna continue with the graph toolkit today. We'll probably do it the whole next week as well, but then we're probably done. What's up, Derek? Happy Friday, and Code as well. And congratulations, Code. That definitely sounds great. That performance increase. Okay, we're gonna start today with an easy task. It wasn't that easy initially, but I simplified it quite a lot. So we're gonna have a get bounds method from dynamic mesh. The idea was to have a two collider method, but collider is it's a component. We need to add it in a little bit of a different way. So we're gonna have a node that is set collider, and depending on the input of that node, or depending on the settings of that node, the options, it's gonna take some different inputs. So if dynamic mesh to collider, it's this one. We're gonna put a lot of the logic here in here, but we want a set collider node that can take bounds and convert it to a box collider. It can take a mesh and convert it to a mesh collider. It can take various shapes and convert them to colliders. So that's what we're going to start with today. Or we're going to finish up this method, then we're going to implement set collider node. And then I have no idea where we will go next, but we will see. Gigantomecca, what's up, what's up? And Niche as well, what's up, what's up? So, get bounds method for dynamic mesh. Basically what we do here is, I wonder if it's, I'm pretty sure it's the correct way to do it. We go through each vertex, calculate a center vertex or a mean vertex position. And then we also get the min and max values for everything. And then when we create the bounds, we want to do center, and size should be vector 3, x max minus x min, y max minus y min, and z max minus z min. Hope I'm not overlooking something here. We're gonna test it soon. Or actually, we're gonna create some additional nodes before we test this one. Code also for my voxel engine, I found a way to have the data stored. So if I set the grid variable to how it was before, you can now see 2.8 kilometers, way more than the average 2.2. That's pretty nice. How did you you say you found a way to have the data? How did you cut the data needed in half? Did you just go from float to half? Niche, fan of your project and thankful because I use your cell shader for my project for years and it's the best one for my use case, so I just wanted to say thanks. Well, thank you as well. Appreciate it. And I'm glad to hear. Hopefully we can get some get a updated cell shader out there soon enough. I've added some pretty nice improvements. Most of them functional though, not that much visuals. We have added a lot of functionality, but not that much visual fidelity is what I'm trying to say. I don't think the cell shader on my GitHub currently works with normal maps. The new version will, however. I don't know if that's something you're interested in, but we will see, we'll see. Okay, so now we have this one. So what I want to focus on now, before we test this one and commit and close this issue, remind me later. That might be interesting, actually. Finally. Why the fuck wouldn't I want to show 2 tabs at once? Nice feature. Okay. We're going to implement this one. So set collider node, editor node, and runtime node. Editor node is going to be... It's going to be quite massive, because this is one of those nodes where we're going to alter how it works and how it looks, depending on the options, right? So let's start with that one. Niche, I added fog calculation to it, since when I got it, it didn't have it. Oh yeah, that's another thing we have added as well. It's not on the GitHub repository yet, but... and niche, I tried to get normal maps in literally yesterday, but I'm a novice, so I'll get to it at a later point, once I know more. Send me a email if you want to, and I can show you how we solved it, or how I solved it, because I reckon there's a couple of months before I will be able to find the time to update my repository. I also added the option to render it two-sided, you know, so you don't need to duplicate geometry to render 2 sides of an object. That's pretty nice as well. Okay, setters. So what I want to add here is set collider editor node, and it's just very kind. I'll do that, no problem at all. Set collider runtime node. Code I just realized that I can push it more. I was using int to store block IDs, I guess, and I don't think I will ever need 4 billion unique blocks. Oh yeah. So shorten it to 16-bit integers, since it holds data too. Yeah, that's nice. I like playing around with types. I remember when I was working with neural networks like 10 years ago, something like that, and we actually made we increased the performance of a neural network a lot by just changing from 32-bit floats to 16-bit floats. And if I remember correctly, we lost like 1% accuracy, but gained like, or shaved off a lot of time. So I like that. Like, one needs to think, most of the time you can actually, like, the way you store things, you can optimize that and gain a lot pretty easily. Set collider editor node, set collider runtime node. I'm going to start with the editor node. Okay, on-define ports. We want to have a on-define options. And we're gonna add a private, or I guess it's gonna be public, but public enum input type. So this will be set collider editor node dot input type. I guess that's okay. And we can start with bounds. That's going to be our 0. Maybe we can have none as 0. And then I want to be able to input a lot of shapes here. We don't have those implemented in a correct way yet, but let's just take a look at the different colliders in Unity. Okay, can I get a new? Collider shapes. Primitive compound. Yeah. Terrain wheel. Okay, I want primitives. So box, sphere, capsule. Okay. So we're gonna have box, but I reckon that it will be, let's call it box, sphere, capsule, and then we're gonna have mesh as well. I think these are all the different types we're gonna have. CodeCube, I'm also thinking of making a separate array for data though. My system is kind of stupid though. I increase performance by storing rendered voxels as colors rather than having textures, since I didn't want to code in shaders. Yeah, commit to it, man. Code in shaders. It's not that bad when you get used to it. So we're gonna have content, like what I would want to have eventually. I don't know if Unity Graph Toolkit supports this yet, but I would like for the node to be like, I want the input port to be able to take multiple different types, and then the type of the node, so the input type is decided by which connection you put into it. I know that Shader Graph has it, so you have nodes that can take float, vector 3, vector 4, and it takes whatever you put into it, and that's what I want to get eventually. But we're gonna wait with that. That's just bells and whistles we can wait with. Implement varying inputs to nodes. For instance, a node should be a okay, so I don't forget it. Undefined options. We want to add some. Don't we have any? Here we do. It's straightforward, so we're gonna skip the tool tip with default value input type none. Delayed. And then on defined ports, here we want to base the result on whatever input type we have. Jesus. So for default here, we're not going to add anything. I think we're just going to break. Code I love how the thing that makes me start a project always gets ditched. Like your cell shader helped me learn the lighting system I made. Now I'm working on full ray marching. I'm looking for a word here that is a perfect... let's see here. Yeah, that's usually how it works with, like, so in your case, my cell shader was the gateway. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. CodeCube, I'm not afraid of coding shaders. What I was scared of is making a shader parsing pipeline since my engine is special. I also plan to make heavy modding support for my game since mods equals free content, and I always LLM proof my code to making everything 10,000 lines long. Oh yeah, so you're one of those with big ass files. I think my biggest file in this project currently is dynamic mesh, honestly. Oh, no. We actually have, let's see here, terrain, grass. I think we have a grass shader that is 700 lines. Okay, set collider editor node. And then we're gonna have case, input type, bounds, box. You know what? We're just gonna start with bounds and mesh. And as for the input, we're just gonna have input. I think that's okay. So we're gonna add an input port here. It's gonna be bounds. No. Okay. Now, eventually we want one for each, I think. My world gen is literally like 1.5k lines, shortest file in the whole project. And that's a big one. Okay, something like this. Let's just see how it looks so far. Good morning, Harukanan, and happy Friday. Add node, set collider editor node. Input type none, then we just have an empty node like this. Then we can do bounds, and we get bounds, and we actually get center and extensive. That is beautiful. Then we can do mesh, and we get this. For box, sphere, and capsule, we just get this still. Do I want to fix these now? Nah, we're gonna wait with it. Input type. We're also gonna have a input game object. This one we will have no matter what we do. And then we also want to have an output, and that is gonna be a game object as well. I wonder how bad it is to have a input and output with the same internal name. We should be able to differentiate them by one being an input and one being an output, right? Or I hope. So the idea here is that we can take... Okay, I think this is gonna be good. Okay, I think that's it for the editor node. What sucks, however, is that I would like to have a dynamic mesh to bounce node as well. Let's add that. We're gonna replace this one. Dynamic mesh to bounce. Okay, let's take a look at set collider runtime node, and I'm gonna take set mesh here. Use that one as a base. The problem here now is that I would like... I mean, we could rely on... we could rely on this here. Maybe. Or you know what? I think this is one of those cases where I would like to not to always... So this one, we should not be able to define it like... maybe we should. But we're not going to do it this time around. If we don't define what it is, we are just relying on the input. Okay. So I think we can do it like this. Set collider runtime node is compatible with connection. First of all, input count 2, output count 1. Input index 0, yes. Here, on the other hand, we're gonna have return connection can output mesh. Or no. Yeah, that's actually true. Or connection can output bounds. Yo, what's up, Quincy? Just popping in, what's up? We're still working on with the Unity Graph Toolkit. It's going pretty smoothly. And what's up with you? And thank you for dropping by as well. Appreciate it. Please leave a like while you're at it. Can output game object? Yes. Generate output. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna get a game object. That's for sure. The other thing though, so we're gonna get the game object and then we're gonna get T collider type or collider and we do T collider base use unsigned. Yeah, of course we could do this, although feels a tiny bit ugly, honestly. But then we do switch type of, can we do this? Collider base. But yes, I thought this would fix it. Holy shit, this is light. Type gets type code. Wow. Maybe we can do it like this then. If collider base is bounds else if collider base is mesh. And that's one way to do it. Actually, I'm gonna, just to make it similar to my other generate output methods, we're gonna do it like this. Coder Cube, with the graph toolkit, is there a preview window like there is in Shader Graph? If there is, why not add a preview every step of the way of meshing to see where it goes right and wrong? I've thought about it, and I don't actually know just yet. I would love to implement one, but I'm also a little bit afraid of doing it, you know? Let's see if we can find an answer to that question now. Unity Graph Toolkit preview window. Features of Graph Toolkit, we can check that one, but then they have one of these massive threads, so let's search in this one. Preview window. Preview window. Is that seriously the only relator we have? It doesn't seem like we have it, right? The code cube, you're telling me a multi-billion. Are they multi-billion? Corporation didn't add something I thought of. Well, yeah. But then again, Graph Toolkit is very experimental so far. And I think someone said something about Graph Toolkit is going to be the, like, every official Unity package that uses something with graphs are going to be implemented in Graph Toolkit. So I think it's coming, if it doesn't already exist. But it might take some time. But now I'm just guessing. Okay. So if this is true, then we're going to do stuff. Otherwise, we just, yeah. So here we do game object, add component, box collider. But then, of course, we want to do box collider, dot center, bound center, and collider size, bound size. If it's a mesh, we do mesh collider. That's about it, I think, for this one. So then we can do set collider editor node, set collider runtime node. Okay. Great. Now, before we can test this, I want to add a set, or I want to add a dynamic mesh to bounds node. Input is going to be dynamic mesh, just like this. Output is going to be bounds. And that's it for the dynamic mesh to bounds, I think. Let's see how it looks. Dynamic mesh in, bounds out. Input 1, output 1. We want dynamic meshes as input, and we want a bounds as output. We want to get the dynamic mesh just like this, and there we have it, I think. Okay, let's alter this graph a bit so that we use these two new nodes, and I'm gonna do it like this. Our main part is going to dynamic mesh to mesh editor node. Here we're gonna have a dynamic mesh to bounds. So like this, set mesh, Then we have set material. We're going to wait with set material. And we're going to add a set collider node here. It's going to be bounce as input, the game object as input, and it's this one we're going to put in here. As for the second part here, set mesh, yeah, here we're going to have a collider. We're going to take the mesh set collider editor node. So mesh, okay, mesh, and this is going to be the game object. And that's about it, I think. So basically, generate a cube 1 times 1 times 1 in size, slice it, take the positive part, convert it to mesh and convert it to bounce, instantiate a game object, set the mesh of that game object to this, and then we add a collider to it based on this. Then we set a material, and then we add a child. The child we add is the negative part, which we make to a mesh. Instantiate object, add mesh, set collider, and this is a mesh collider. And then we set the material, the same material as this one, and then add child. And then here, okay. Let's see if exporting it results in any errors. No errors. Okay, great. Then let's play this and see what happens. No errors, but I don't see a game object here. So something is amiss. Did I fuck something up when we did dynamic mesh to bounce runtime node? Set collider runtime node. One sec, where does it... We just quit that try get output from node dynamic mesh to bounce runtime node. So we failed here for some reason, I guess. Let's double check and see if I have a proper... yeah, okay. Let's just add one of these, debug.log, failed to generate output. So for some reason when we called this one, not this one, but this one, we failed. Get bounce. So I guess we couldn't get the input for some reason. Pretty sure this is what fails. Failed to... Ooh, we failed to generate a lot. Failed to generate dynamic mesh to runtime node. So then we fail with everything else. But this one is the first. Okay, so I want to double check. Do we store it properly? Hmm. Setting up game creatures generation, dynamic mesh to bounce runtime node. Setting up output 0 to input 1 of node. Set collider runtime node. That's good. So this one gets correctly set. Let's take a look at dynamic mesh slicer editor node. Setting up game dynamic mesh slicer runtime node. Setting up output 0 to input 0 of dynamic mesh to mesh. Setting up output 0 to input 0 of node dynamic mesh to bounce. That's good. Did I forget to serialize this shit? I don't think so. Serializable. Let's double check how it looks stored. All the nodes exist here, right? Dynamic mesh to bounce. Inputs 1, and that is... Yeah, that is correct as well. The setup seems to work, or the export. Okay, so what is the problem here? I reckon we don't get this one, but why can't we get the input we have gotten so many times before? Is it... Hmm. Hmm. We add some more information here. Let's take this one. Do this. But we can do... Can't we? But of course we want to keep it like this. Okay. If we can't output, then we do this. Otherwise we generate. Let's see if this is what's wrong. Hmm. Okay, so value. Yeah, of course. Of course, of course. We do. Okay. Really interested in what's going wrong here. I have no guess. Now it works. Okay. What? Here. Game creatures generation graph dynamic mesh to bounds runtime node can't output system.object. Okay. Pretty cool that it still runs through. Fail. Okay, we don't do fail here. Why the is this one an object at this point? Yeah, maybe it's not specified more, or one sec. Is it the bounds that fails? Failed to generate game creatures dynamic mesh to bounds runtime node can't output system object. Yeah. Okay, I get it. So the problem isn't here. It's here. Of course. Oof. Okay, this makes sense. This we can work with. Um, hmm. Fucking hell. What we could do is... So I want to improve this eventually. I think I mentioned it. Yeah, that's a good question. Where do I mention it? Yes. So what we could do here is we try get input box bounds. If that doesn't work, we try get inputs mesh, and so on and so on. It's not perfect, but it might work for now. Everything just to not have an internal setting here of what we will actually input. I guess we can do this then. Yes, we could have object collider base, and then we can do, maybe we can do bounce like this. Wow, look at this. So what we can do is bounces. use for unassigned, but this one isn't nullable, right? So we do this. Okay, so new bounds, we try and get this. If it doesn't work, we want to try something else. If that doesn't work, we want to try something else. You know what? I'm thinking, what if can't we do it like this? Private type, input type. Yeah, that's true. We can't. Or actually, we can't do a switch on this one, or can we? Put type. And then we do type of, don't we? Okay, maybe not. Oh, actually, yeah. Okay, I get it. What can we do instead? The thing is that when we, can output, I mean, it would be nice. Nah, I want to be specific here. I want to keep it like this. I don't want to be able to return output. But I guess if we were able to get output, we could solve this. Oh, fuck is that? Maybe we can just do get generic. Try get output. Like if we could just create an additional method that fetches the value as an object, like the base. But yeah, no. Yo, what's up, trust no one else? Yeah, maybe. I saw something similar being done. But we should be able to do... Shouldn't we be able to do TA? Let's do value. Oh, maybe we can't. Or is it this? Yeah. I think we could do pattern matching like this. But the problem being... one second, I want to try this. Does this work even though this one is null? Ah, but it's not this one we want to do it on anyway. Can't we do it like this? But the problem, like, this doesn't solve our problem. We need to know the type before we try and get input from the previous node. We need it like this. Does our connection know it? I don't think so. I don't think so, no. What exactly are you building here? Like a runtime tool for creature creation? Yes, indeed. We want to be able to procedurally create creatures, and we want to be able to define how they are going to be procedurally generated by graph, like this. But then we need a runtime representation of this as well, and that's what we're currently doing. And this specific node should just add a collider to whatever input the game object it gets as input, but the collider it should add depends on the setup. So sometimes we send in a mesh and wants to generate a mesh collider, and sometimes we send in a bounce and want to generate a box collider, and so on. Hope that clarifies it a tiny bit. Trust no one else. Yeah, it does. Thanks. How do you like the graph toolkit? Actually, I really enjoy it. It has been quite easy to work with. It's bare bones still, but it's experimental and new, so I was prepared for that. No, it's a pretty damn good experience so far. CodeCube, did you hear about the 6.3 LTS release? I actually saw it this morning just before I started streaming, so I didn't look into it. Got any nice news for me? Fuck, we're gonna need try get input, try get output. We could... Nah, I don't like it. Okay, I want to avoid, for as long as we can, I want to avoid getting generic output. So we could ask for object output, but I don't want to do that. Or I want to avoid doing that. But if we could just get this value, then we could do... This is weird pattern matching, by the way. So what do we do with B here? Is that our value? Or I mean, we could... CodeCube, I saw the stream on my homepage but felt like sleep rather than Jap, so I went back to bed. Unity always has boring presentation and it's just Jap for too long. Yeah, I usually just check the summaries. Trust no one else. Oh really? I'm sad that they don't want to expose how low-level access to the node so that you can, as example, style the node when it's active, like in a dialog graph. Yeah, I hope they will extend it quite a bit eventually. And I think they will. I already have a few things I want to do, and I'm not entirely sure they are available just yet. I would like to want to set specific display names to my nodes. So I don't just want to take the editor node class name and display it. I want to group nodes, but this should be available. I want to be able to hide and a few things. I want a preview window as well. We talked about it previously on stream, but I'm having high hopes for the future. For now, it's enough for me to just make it work, you know. Can we do, or is this stupid? Nah, we shouldn't. Trust no one else. Yeah, I think it was on the roadmap to extend its functionality, but we will see. Yeah, things tend to be on the roadmap for quite some time. Most hyped I'm for the core CLR change, an entity being a core package. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna take a look. Core CLR, I have no idea what that is. First time hearing it. Okay, just to be able to continue this sheet, we're gonna do this. I don't like, but we're gonna do dynamic mesh to set collider editor node input type. We're gonna take this one, we're gonna move it away from here, and we're gonna put it in the runtime here. I just want to make this work. Input type, so back to set collider. Where do we have input type? Input type. We're gonna get some errors here, right? We need to do graph. Can we do input node? Can I, what is the short to rename this one? Oh, let's do it like this then. Input type. I want to replace it with set collider runtime node input type. Which one are we at? This one. Ah, fuck me. Like this, I think. Okay, so we have it here, and then we do input type. Instead, yeah, we call it input type. Input type. And then we just do a switch on this one. And we check bounds mesh. So if it's bounds, we do this. And this is just pure, this is wrong, right? We don't have, oh, we have it down here. And let's see, so we try and get it. We return false if we don't succeed. If we succeed, we do this. And then if it's a mesh, we do the exact same thing. But like this, and if it succeeds, we do this. And there we have it. Now we just need to add this one in our constructor. So down here, we want to fetch, yeah, this one. Like this, I think. Let's see if we have any compiler errors. Trust no one else. It's the new runtime for C#, but Unity still uses their own forked mono version. Basically means we will have a new language features. 50 that it compiles faster. And of course, they don't need to implement new language features themselves. Okay, nice. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. I'm gonna have to look into it a bit more. Oh no, what did I fuck up here? Type provider must be enum. Where did I screw up? Graph. Hmm. Oh, is it this one I fucked up? Probably. Okay, no errors. Let's see. Okay, that works. Was this just a compile? Okay. Okay, beautiful. So where were we? Yeah, let's see if it works. Save. And play. Okay, no errors. That's nice. We have our little cube here. We have a sub. Yeah, okay. We have a sub part. We don't have any collider on this one, so something didn't work. And then we have this one, we don't have any collider on this one, so something didn't work. Very interested in what went wrong this time. We don't have any failed. We don't have any failed. Oh, one sec. Do we fail here then? But that doesn't make any sense. Or does it? Let's see. Worried about this one. Why do we have two here? What's weird is... Oops. What's weird is... that everything continues, everything works. So I'm wondering, we probably never get down to these. Did I screw up set collider editor node? Yeah, maybe I did. One sec. Now here we get the input type from this option here. What if we re-export it? Was it an export issue? That's what I hope. Oops, stop playing as well. Actually, can we? Yeah, we can. Oh, I might know, but we can check here, I think. Set collider runtime inputs. Yes. Okay, once again, I forgot to do. Once again, I forgot to do, what is this? Here. I forgot to do this, serialize field. So if we want this information to be saved in our scriptable object, we need to write it explicitly or state it. So now we hopefully don't have any problems generating colliders. I hope. Ooh, but I see something that is a little bit weird. Let's take a look at this one first. This one has a mesh collider, although I don't see it. See if it's convex, otherwise we don't. Okay. Don't know what that is about. I don't think we should need convex here. We'll take a look at it. At least we generate a mesh collider, and we do have a mesh collider here. As for the box collider, we do generate it. But it is a little bit off. Yes. The way we calculate the center is fucked. Definitely. Yeah, it's me. I didn't think it through. So basically, dynamic mesh, we go through each vertex and we calculate the center vertex by just doing mean. That's not what we want to do. We want to calculate the center from this. So I think we're going to do this. Vector 3 size is equal to this, this, and vector 3 center is equal to yeah, yes, we can do a. Can we do? Yeah, can't we just do? We have the max and min point. We could just lerp 0.5 between those two, but we should be able to do this mathematically in a mathematically simpler way, shouldn't we? And we... Nah, this is length. But can't we just take this divided by 2, or am I... Or times 0.5. So I sent 555. Nah, that's not entirely correct, is it? Let's remove this and this at least. I guess in the future, if we want to be very specific, we can probably add an option of how we calculate the center. If we do it by if we do it weighted by number of vertices and stuff like that, but I don't really see how that would be useful. I'm trying to make sense of this in my head. X max minus X min divided by 2. So if we have 10 and 30 on X, we get 20 divided by 2. Nah, that's wrong. But what we can do is, this I know works. Right. Future me will handle it. And we just changed the runtime stuff, so we should be able to just play it. And here we have this slice, and here we have this slice, and this one has a perfect box collider. And that's fucking beautiful. We're getting closer and closer to being able to generate our Sten creature once again. It's the repeatable nodes I'm a little bit afraid of. That's a next week problem, though. We can continue with the easy stuff now. I'm also wondering about this one, Mesh Collider, Convex. Convex, make the Mesh Collider are limited to 2. Convex, doesn't that mean that we can make... I don't know. We definitely want it to be convex because of this, though. I'm just wondering, 255 triangles, that's probably... yeah. We want to avoid mesh colliders as much as we can. I guess it's fine for internal colliders. Okay, but for now, let's do... set collider runtime node. Let's just make this one mesh collider dot convex equals to true. Here we have it. We want to be able to set the layer as well. We're going to do that in creature component, I think, though, so we can wait with that. Okay. Dynamic mesh to bounce works. Set collider works. What nodes do we have left? I'm going to commit this as well, but I want to know what we're going to do next. This one is done. This one is done. Done, done, done. We changed this a little bit. Might want to change it here as well in the documentation. This is to bounce instead. So it's done, done, done. Okay. So then we can jump over to this right side. Done, not done. Okay, let's make this one. Okay, what I think I'm gonna do here is fucking hell. Okay, I think we're gonna implement this full right side. So we're gonna need random scale, random float, random transform on dynamic mesh, random vector, random color. Hopefully we can put all of these in the same node. We want to add some rules when it comes to the seed. Sometimes we want to reuse a seed. Sometimes we want to regenerate the seed or whatever. We want to be able to control this randomization. We want to make this randomization not random, pretty much. Or less random. Set transform, yes, we need to implement this node. And we need to implement this node. Okay, this node is probably going to be quite fun, I reckon. So we want to have a node that is set material property that should be able to take multiple different inputs. We should be able to write a string in... Fuck, can we do... Yeah, we should be able to do that. So we're going to define a value and a string, and then we're going to set properties in materials. Okay, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So we're going to implement this right side. We're going to implement it like it's only going to be run once. But the fun thing is that the idea is that all of these nodes from these two... Actually, we can start here. This node down to this node should be run 0 to x times. So basically we want to run this one once, generate all of this, add child, then we want to run it again, do all of this again, add child, and so on and so on. So we want to have, like, parts of the graph should be done multiple times. What it all comes down to is we can fake it, I guess. We can fake it by... Fake it. Like, we have multiple different approaches to be able to implement this. One way would be to work with lists of values here, but I think that is the messiest approach. Then we're going to have to alter the cache as well. But you know what? I think we might do... We might also implement some sort of wrapper or subgraph, basically. Our own subgraph. So during Unity Graph Toolkit export, we check which nodes are ran more than once, or being run more than once, and we put them in the subgraph, and then we just execute that subgraph multiple times. Definitely. But how the hell would that look in our graph toolkit? How would we... Features of graph, subgraph. I know. We're gonna have one node. Yeah, we're gonna have one node that we execute multiple times. So, yeah, we're gonna... I think this is the cleanest approach, and it's gonna make the most sense overall. We implement all of this, we create this graph in our graph node editor, and then right about here, or yeah, somewhere before this one or after it, we create a multiplier node or something like that that takes input 0 and runs it multiple times. The problem is that we want these to be cache-less. This one should definitely... This should also be cache-less, but when we fetch the result from the dynamic mesh slicer, we want to read from the cache. Okay. I think I have a vague idea of how I want to approach this, but we can't start experimenting with it, or I don't want to start experimenting with it until we have these in place, okay? So we're just gonna do some repeatable work here. But let's start with committing what we have here so far. We added dynamic mesh to bounds, or first of all, we're gonna add or commit dynamic mesh because we added a get bounds method. And then we commit this and then this. But I also changed... Yeah, we added something here, bounds, okay. What did I change here? Oh yeah, we cleaned this one up a bit. That's okay. Oh, do I have an open issue related to dynamic? Ah, never mind. We actually have this one, yeah. Add dynamic mesh get bounds method. I think this is the first issue in the history of this project where my where I actually got the end date wrong for for a task. That's something. And what did we have then? Bounds. Dynamic mesh to bounds, runtime, and editor node. Okay. Add dynamic mesh to bounds node. So that's this one. And then we have set collider node as well. And it was set collider node. Related to 210. Okay, okay. Codecube, have we still not come up with a name, or is it going to release like Untitled Goose Game did? Nah. We're definitely gonna come up with a name. I'm still hoping that it will just come to me, you know? But we will see. I don't want to do any, like, after some failed predictions of when I would release my first playtest version, I don't want to tell a date anymore. But we're definitely gonna have a name for it before the first playtest version is out. And that's probably 6 months out. At least. That's like lower bound. Okay, so we already have... Fuck, did I forget? Oh, yeah. This is okay. We can... Yeah, let's commit this one real quick as well. for the cube, so it's not going to be the next GTA 6 and be constantly delayed. It's definitely going to be constantly delayed, or possibly a few times at least. Okay, random value editor node. What do we have so far? I can see here that we started implementing it. Random value editor node. And here we have int, float, vector2, vector3, and transform. Beautiful. For the cube, 13 years delayed. I want to say no, but I can't promise anything. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure how I want to solve this. We have, or what we want to have is something like this, random transform on dynamic mesh. So given a dynamic mesh, we want to calculate a random point on that dynamic mesh. We already have all of the functionality for it. It's just a question of how we want to define it when we work with it. So random value editor node, transform. I wonder if I want to add an optional dynamic mesh input here. But we probably want to add input here then. So the runtime version of it is going to be quite complicated, I think. Code Cube, so it's coming out with video 7. Nah, it's coming out after video 7. Look at this. Look up here. I'm actually working on it when I find the time. But then again, I don't want to say a date for that one either, because I don't know if I can keep it. You never know with life, right? Okay, I'm pretty sure I want my random node to be able to take a dynamic mesh as input. Code Cube, if your children's and so on is going to enjoy the game, that relies on my children, or maybe someone else taking up, continuing the work on the game when I pass. Maybe I should get some succession order in place. Okay, so I think we're gonna do this. I wonder if it's possible to do it. Random value. Let's take a look here. Can I actually do this and then do this here? But yeah. So we can't really get this one yet. That makes sense. But what the fuck could we do? Okay, no. Let's see, context, what is it? I option definition context. Context definition. I option definition context. Wow. Mm, So, the reason I wanted to do this was because I want to add an option. I wanted to be able to add an option where we decide the input, and depending on what we set as the input, the option changes. Okay, we're gonna have to work around this. I would also like to avoid needing to have a dynamic mesh input that's always there, you know? CodeCube, well, I have to go see for tomorrow's stream. Unfortunately, I won't be streaming tomorrow, but have a great weekend and see you on Monday, hopefully. Yeah, it's Friday indeed. Now, I think a better option is, yep, we're gonna make this one into its own node. CodeCube, when you follow an identical schedule every day, days blend together. They sure do. They sure do, man. And then we're gonna have this one, this one, this one, and this one as a separate node. Have a good one, CodeCube. Random transform on dynamic mesh. Let's implement this one first because it's gonna be easy. Extremely easy, I think. Since we already have the backend, or we have the runtime implementation of it, which was not easy to implement, that's for sure. So what do we have? Alters, converters. Is it really a converter though? Generators. It's not a generator, not instantiator, not a setter, not an alterer. Fuck. Maybe it's a converter though. Yeah, dynamic mesh to transform. It's a little bit of a weird name. Yeah, let's go for it. Dynamic mesh to transform. Editor node. Compile, compile, compile. Dynamic mesh to transform runtime node. Yeah, let's hope. Editor node is gonna be extremely simple. I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be, yeah, pretty much just this. Editor node, and then what do we have? Do we have a transform here? No, we don't. I reckon that's about it for now. We're gonna add some options. We're gonna add some options to it later on, because I think we're gonna take a look at dynamic mesh, randomize, or getting a random transform from dynamic mesh. I think we should be able to have, or that we have some options for it. Dynamic mesh to transform. Look at this, beautiful. And then we take a look at this one, dynamic mesh to transform runtime node. Input count 1, output count 1 is compatible with connection dynamic mesh. Yes. Can output transform. Generate output. Dynamic mesh. So here we have subdivide, slice, create plane, create cube. Okay. Get polygons, Get random polygon on mesh. Is that how we do it? Get random polygon, and then polygon has get random vertex. Let's just check how we implemented it in our modules. Yeah, okay, so we get random polygon on mesh, and then we have a dynamic mesh polygon angle threshold. So when we generate this stuff, this is probably something we want to cache as well. That is true. So we pretty much parse through the dynamic mesh. And find or group every triangle into polygons based on angle threshold. And then when we have polygons, that's when we get a random vertex. And a vertex has position and normal. We can build a... Okay, I wonder if it also has... Yeah, we don't have... We don't have bitangent or tangents or binormals. Most of the time, I don't know if we have a use case where we want to generate a transform with a, like, I don't know if we have a use case yet where we want to generate a transform with, like, where we put much weight on the tangent and binormal. In this use case, we just want a random transform on a dynamic mesh. So when it gets to, like, we don't care how the transform is rotated around its normal, I guess. But something tells me that we probably will in the future. So, is this something we need to implement? Okay. Okay, now I have the feeling that I want to... Okay, let's say that we use the same approach to get a random transform on a dynamic mesh. Polygon here, we just want to generate these polygon once, right? So I'm thinking about... creating a node that is dynamic mesh to polygons. So given a dynamic mesh, it returns a list of polygons. And I want to do this because we want to store this in memory. Because when we generate this creature, we're gonna call this one multiple times. For the Sten creature, we pretty much instantiates as a random number of eyes, and then we position them on random positions on the mesh. So let's say that we want to generate 15 eyes, then we're going to call random transform on dynamic mesh 15 times. If we don't store the result, the polygon result from the previous iterations, that means that we're going to go through each triangle and each edge in the dynamic mesh 15 times. And we're gonna generate the same result over and over and over. And that's stupid. And the easiest way to be able to cache this one is to have it in its own node, because then it will work with the current cache implementation we have. But, or not a but yeah, I think that works out very good, because yeah, sometimes we might want to do random transform on dynamic mesh with different polygon angle thresholds. But this polygon angle threshold will be defined in the node. So what I'm getting at is, if we have a dynamic mesh 2 polygons here, then it actually returns a list of polygons. Is that weird? I don't know how this works with lists. I guess we will find out. Yeah, let's do it like that. Let's just update the task list before I continue. Yeah, right. We want this one to be dynamic. Worst case scenario, we create a custom struct that is a polygon list, and then we should be able to return it however we want. But dynamic mesh 2 polygons. And then also dynamic mesh 2 trans. So let's duplicate this. We're gonna have a dynamic mesh input and the output. Let's see if this works then. Fucking hell. Yeah, where do we have the polygons? We have them on... It's in data, right? So we should be able to do list. Primitives. Polygon. See how this looks. Primitives could not be found, so data.primitives then data could not be found. List. Okay. Okay. So let's put this in a custom struct. But one sec. Am I really gonna have to define a polygon list? Dynamic mesh. But then again, we can probably just define it. Let's add it. 4. Stupid. Let's just make it public. Something like that, and then we can go to dynamic mesh and let's do list polygon, get random polygon on mesh, get polygons. One sec, be right back real quick. Okay, back. Sorry about that. So yeah, let's just change this one to, oops, this one and this one. Polygon list. Polygons dot polygons. That's stupid. Let's obscure it a bit. And then we have, is this the last one? Oh, we have count, get polygons. I'm a little bit afraid that this is going to be the stupidest wrapper class, or the most useless one. Wonder if you can get this, do this any other way. Am I gonna override this one as well? Let's just do, okay, let's do private serialize. Okay. Okay. So now we should be able to do polygon list here. The namespace type or namespace name polygon list. Primitives dot. What the fuck? Data dot. Oh, did I just do? Dot polygon list. Okay, this has to work. Thank you. But game creatures generation data, shouldn't we be able to just do it like this? So fucking weird. Okay, so if we have it like this, and then we have dynamic mesh 2 polygons, and here we have it. Dynamic mesh 2 polygons, and we have a polygon list. And I want to have one option here. Dynamic mesh 2. Take the generator. Put it here. Or actually, we put it here. Undefine options. And we want a float. So let's take this one. And this one, let's name it angle threshold. This one definitely needs a tooltip. Let's try and keep it short. Yo, what's up, Kevin? threshold angle in degrees for which to group triangles into polygons. How's the graphing going? It's going pretty damn good, actually. Let's see if I have any compilers. We're starting to get a lot of different nodes, and everything is working nice. We can generate stuff. We're getting very, very close to being able to generate the Sten creature again. Kevin, mine started to lag around 400 nodes. Fuck, man, I haven't even thought about it. I guess one should really start implementing like subgraphs and stuff like that. I don't know how performant the library shader graph is built in. I wonder if it could handle 400 nodes. But let's see here, on define options, angle internal display tooltip, default value is gonna be, I don't know, 15. And delayed, so now we should have this option, if we can compile. Here we have it. So angle threshold. Threshold angle in degrees for which to group triangles into polygons. Makes sense to me. But maybe it could be a little bit better. I think this is it. Dynamic mesh to polygons runtime. Yeah, here we need this one. So private float. Oops. Yeah, and here we want to read the value. And then generate output. That's just... Ooh, fuck, can we... Maybe, we'll see. Yeah, of course we should, because we have... So we do... It inputs dynamic mesh and it outputs polygon list. Polygon list. Dynamic mesh dot polygon get polygons angle threshold degrees and polygon list like this, and that's about it. I'm not gonna have time to test these new nodes today because unfortunately I need to run now. But it has been a very nice and productive day, and we're gonna continue this next week. By the end of next week, if nothing unforeseen happens, I think we will be done with Graph Toolkit for a while, because I'm pretty sure we can manage to implement it in such a way that we can generate our Sten creature again. But this time in a much better way. Yes, so have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks for watching. Peace.